What's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to some out there. It's the Earthmaster here on this Monday, October 24th, 2022. It's about 11:47 a.m. California time. Taking a look at the last 24 hours of earthquake activity around the globe, showing quite a cluster over here around the Western Pacific and adjacent plates here across the Indonesia area, where we're seeing quite a bit of swarming, some deeper movement as well. Up around the Izu Trench and into the kind of looks like the Japan Trench as well, Kurokamachaka Trench area, all showing some deeper movement. Although the latest earthquake up there at 2.2 on the Big Island of Hawaii. Let's go ahead and check out the latest activity here across the area. We're going to start off with Hawaii. Looks like a 2.2 around the Pahala area, 32 kilometers deep for this earthquake. Very typical swarm down here. Haven't really seen any major uptick around the Pahala area, Kilauea, or the Mauna Loa region, although Mauna Loa is showing still some signs of elevated seismic activity, including last night had a, this originally came in as a 3.4. I was still up about 11:30 at night last night and seen that come in. Right at the summit, very shallow earthquake. It was downgraded to a 3.1, but either way, that's right up there at the summit. And then a couple other smaller earthquakes and shallow as well. Negative depths for all those earthquakes there. Taking a look at the current conditions of Mauna Loa, the Big Island, looking like yellow and advisory. Still no elevated change on the alerts. A quick look at the seismograph stations here. Let's see if we can find one that will work. Looks like that was not operational. There we go. Here is the last 12 hours of earthquake activity noted up there on the map. And let's see if we can find that. That was 11, when was that one? 11:23, but UTC time would be sometime around 06:35. So let's see if we can find that. 06:35. 06, okay, so 06:35. Wow. Okay, where did it go? Maybe can't see it on the 12-hour map, but 12 hours here, still showing some activity overnight and this morning time frame, it looks like. More than what is currently listed up on the USGS map, so not really any surprise there. Let's check out down here around the Pahala area. Some of these stations are not operational for some reason. There's a couple more. Down in the Pahala area, notice that some of these larger earthquakes are showing up on the graph, but much of the smaller ones that we're seeing on Mauna Loa are not going to be showing up here around the Pahala area due to the distance. Even though it's literally, what, oh, I don't know, they don't have any mile scale here. I think it's like 15 miles, 20 miles or so from the Mauna Loa down to this area. And so the smaller ones, the localized earthquakes around Mauna Loa, are not going to show up distantly. But for certain, they have no problem showing up there on the other stations. So 06, I wanted to see if I can find that earthquake real quick. 06:35 UTC time here. 06:35, so it's going to be this one right here. There's a 06:30. You guys can see that. That's going to be the 3.1. So some of these other ones that are kicking in look like they're just under that magnitude. So probably some upper twos overnight. And according to the USGS, we had a couple twos here, 2.1, 2.5. But again, there's a couple missing from what I can tell on the graph there. So a little bit more earthquake activity in that department. And of course, not to mention some of these smaller quakes here. Notice those are all earthquakes as well, folks. Those, you know, should be counted. If there's a good-sized swarm going on at Mauna Loa, I think the public should be aware of it. All right, see what else we got. West Coast activity. We'll start off here with the West Coast. Of course, we had some activity around Mount Rainier yesterday, and I did check out the seismograph station again. This is from overnight, Mount Rainier at the summit around Camp Sherman area. And this volcano is still showing some activity up here. Very localized, spiky activity. There's a well-defined earthquake right there localized to this station. Whoa, you guys see that? Just kind of disappeared on me. I've been having some weird stuff happening recently. Even on a brand new computer. Goodness. I wonder what's going on. Well, let me go back here and double check this one. It's a little on the odd side. I'm glad I'm live and recording this so you guys can see what's going on occasion. Yesterday, live stream froze up and I had a program, the Earthquake 3D program, freeze up the computer and then also uninstall itself from my hard drive. And I've never seen a program do that before. I actually had to re-download the Earthquake 3D program. I'm not going to pay for it again. I've already paid for it, so I shouldn't have to pay for it every time I want to use it. And that doesn't make sense. Anyway, earthquake activity. Still seeing some overnight and this morning time frame. Notice these little spikes here. So kind of keep an eye on that, seeing what's going on up there around Mount Rainier. All right, back to the earthquake activity. Some movement around Mount St. Helens as well. Looks like a little bit of a swarm. Nothing huge. Just outside the southeastern portion, southeastern flank there of the Mount St. Helens region there in Washington. Also Mount Hood, southern segment or the southern portion here, just south of the summit, showing some small earthquakes as well. Northern California, not a whole lot showing up here today, at least not being reported. Down south into the Bay Area, looks like one earthquake outside of Modesto near Wesley. 14 kilometers deep for that earthquake right there, 2.3. That one coming in earlier this morning, it looks like around 6 o'clock. Getting some activity north of the Garlock Fault, east of the White Wolf Fault Zone. This segment right here normally does show a lot of activity. Let's see if we can bring up the last 7 days. And sometimes it creates a pretty good connect the dots type of deal here. And even though this fault system shows that it ends within this area, I think it continues much further here and picks up a couple different shear zone, shear fault systems down here. Of course, I got the main one, the Garlock Fault, and then I believe this one right here is a secondary one, although not really showing up as the same faults here. Kind of missing a chunk, but right now we got an earthquake activity, a couple earthquakes there within that missing zone there, or missing fault system. Near the Bodfish area, looks like. A couple ones and some smaller earthquakes in that mix, but all pretty much over the last hour or so. Ridgecrest, a little spotty out there today. And the Southern California area, not a whole lot going on. Mostly all microquakes. No major swarms around the San Andreas Fault. No major swarms around the Brawley Seismic Zone or the Imperial Fault. This is very typical movement here on any given day around the San Jacinto Fault Zone and its separate segments here. So that's not of concern. Just a gradual increase in earthquake activity right up against the San Andreas Fault, but that's very typical on any given day. Yellowstone National Park, what do we got up here? Looks like some earthquake activity within the last hour of 1.0. Let's see what we got for the Yellowstone thumbnails here. And looks like... see what we got. Let's open up Holmes Hill. Some earthquake activity overnight as well. Kind of looks like this morning's been a little spotty as well as far as earthquake activity goes. No major uptick, but this has been an ongoing deal, folks, for like 7 weeks now. Almost stretching into 2 months of just earthquake activity like this. And we got to wait a little bit, I think another week before they put out a monthly update on the activity at Yellowstone. But it will be interesting to see what they got for a tally. And right now, over the last 30 days, and this is just the last, ooh, look at that. USGS cut me off right there. They don't want me opening up their page. You guys see that? It's not my internet, is it? Let me double check here. I don't even know if I want to open up USGS anymore. No, it's not my internet. But that's sure kind of weird. Sitting there browsing on their page, and all of a sudden they pull the server connection. And they don't want me on there. Man, if that's not 100% proof of a little bit of behind-the-scenes work, I don't know what is. You guys see that? That's a little odd. All right. So USGS, I am the member of the public. I pay my taxes. And you guys are a government organization and which we are entitled to view data. So please allow me to view this data. Thank you. Let's go over here to the 30 days, all magnitudes. I'm trying to... You think the USGS would be happy about me and quite a few other folks here on the YouTube world trying to show data. I could just go with the EMSC or some other data agency, but I like the layout. But there's some earthquakes that don't get reported. That's just a fact. A little bit of movement, right? This is the last 30 days. If we were to go back the last, I don't know, 2 months, we would probably double that number. Right around probably 800 earthquakes or so at Yellowstone National Park. Right now only showing 400. And that's still a lot for a monthly time period. Doesn't mean it's going to blow. Doesn't mean that there's any eruption imminent. Just means that there's an earthquake swarm at Yellowstone. And we see them often. In fact, a few years ago, we had a pretty intense one throughout the summer. It lasted a couple months, but the earthquakes were stronger than what we're seeing today, or what we're seeing this go around. If I remember right, it was, yeah, I think it was about in the same area of the park. Sometimes we get swarms up here against Yellowstone Lake and the eastern section and the center portion. They just all occur on occasion here. The largest magnitude in this mix is a 2.9. So not that big of an earthquake at all. Not that big of an earthquake swarm. Far as the magnitudes go, multitudes, yes, it's getting up there. But I can't wait to see what the USGS puts out in terms of a monthly update there on Yellowstone. Okay, everything's working, right? Make sure we're still live. Are we still live? Yes, we are. Okay. Oklahoma and Kansas border up here. Seen some activity once again earlier this morning. It looks like a 2.1 north of Wakita into the Wakita trend and gas and oil fields. And I had somebody mention on a comment here that these areas, Oklahoma, Texas areas, and whatnot, have fault systems, and obviously they do. They have faults over here, faults throughout the state up into Oklahoma. You got the Wichita Mountains area right down here. There's fault systems that run up here, and even into Kansas there's fault systems. But when I look at these earthquakes and I see them right smack dab in an oil field, away from any mountain ranges or any fault systems, and you kind of have to, you know, put common sense together. This earthquake striking out in the middle of a field. Now, there is oil pumping operations out here within the vicinity. Some new, and some look like they've been covered up by the erosion, vegetation, and whatnot. And I think that's what's happening out here. You can't really see them anymore. They've just disappeared off the map. Although sometimes you can spot these little roads going to nowhere. That maybe could have been a pumping operation out here. And there's a bunch out here. There's no doubt there's a bunch in this field area. I remember seeing them when I was out visiting the Twister store out there in Wakita. Beautiful, beautiful little town. Of course, if you like Twister, I think they're coming out with a sequel, aren't they? That's pretty crazy. I don't know if I'm going to watch it because I'm kind of a big fan of the first one. I don't want it to get ruined. All right, what else we got? Oklahoma or New Madrid zone out here. This one was last night, a 1.5 coming in to the area of the eastern Arkansas region, New Madrid zone. Eastern portion of the country, though, looks pretty quiet for now. Alaska, looks like a beautiful typical day up there. Way up north, though, around the Brooks Range, North Slope area, getting some earthquake activity way up north. 3.4 at 1 kilometer deep. Not too often do we see a whole bunch of movement up there. Well, it's not a whole bunch, but one earthquake. Lucian Trench right now looks pretty quiet. Over here on the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, the Japan Trench area, I think this is more into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. Notice the depth there, 448 kilometers deep. That striking earlier this morning, just before 7 my time. Not a big earthquake, but man, I've been watching this area pretty closely here. A lot of deep movement over the past few months with only very minimal surface rupture up here towards the subduction zone. And that's where the strain builds, kind of similar to the Cascadia subduction zone. And this here, well, this is much bigger and the slip rate is much higher. But the concept, the subduction zones here. They can build up a lot of strain, and this area has a lot of strain built up with only very minimal earthquake activity. So I think if we see looking for a next big one, far as 8.0 or above, I believe it's going to be here on this segment. The Japan Trench has seen some activity in the 6s. It was over earlier this year, I believe. But even here, even this segment, I think has a lot of built-up activity for enough strain for a large earthquake. And we've been seeing this deeper movement with very minimal upstream. So watch that area. Izu Trench. See what we got. Is activity from today? Looks like 4.7. This one here, Japan area at 37 kilometers deep. We have been seeing some deeper movement here into the Izu Trench with adjustment upstream at the subduction zone. And we've got a 5.3 a little bit further south along the Mariana Trench, 81 kilometers deep. And that should continue to keep activity pretty busy here around the Philippines. It's been very busy. If you look at the earthquake 3D globe, it's swamped here within this area as far as earthquakes go. USGS, they only show the 4.0 and above, but there's a lot of 3s in there, and those are important as well. Kind of gives you an idea of where all the built-up strain, where the swarming is taking place, and it's all within this area right here. So, and of course, northwestward pressure movement here in this area. And from this direction, we've got a northeastward pressure movement. So one area that's probably building up quite a bit of strain, too, is the Java Trench region. Not a whole lot of activity right now on it, but I can't help but wonder what's building within this range. The Solomon Islands, Samoa, Fiji. Latest earthquake shows a 5.1 just outside the Solomon Islands area, 129 kilometers deep. A couple earthquakes overnight, looks like, into the Tonga region. Fiji, seen another deep earthquake here, 552 kilometers. And not a whole lot right now across the Kermadec Trench or down around New Zealand. Even on the earthquake 3D globe here, I'm not seeing a whole lot of movement throughout New Zealand. And most of the time, EMSC will cover that activity. Let's see here. Himalayas. What we got out there? Anything recent? Those look like from yesterday. So not a whole lot of new earthquake activity taking place within that region overnight or this morning time frame. The Atlantic Ocean all pretty calm and quiet for now. Let's see what else we got. Earthquakes Canada. I'm sure those folks maybe. Yeah, it looks like they put a little earthquake activity on the map. Let's see what we got here for the Canada region. New movement up north into the Yukon region. It looks like a 1.8. That one kicking off here just a short time ago. Same for this. Didn't I just click that one? 1.8. What was this one? 2.1. So a little bit of newer activity hitting up here into the plate boundary of the Pacific and the North American plate up here. Not a whole lot down south. We got one off the coast of Victoria, it looks like, off the Vancouver Island ranges. 2.0. That one coming in earlier this morning time frame. Cascadia subduction zone up here in the northern end looks pretty minimal right now. Not a whole lot going on there. And by the way, tremor yesterday, 437 epicenters of tremor, a re-uptick of the tremor count. Of course, if you remember, we've had a large amount of tremor throughout the Oregon area over the past few weeks. We can go back since about, let's go right about here, 9:30 to right now. Notice we had a pretty good peak back in October 9th time frame. Had about 949 epicenters of tremor on one day. That was quite a bit. So here's the tally since the 30th of last month up until about right now. You can pretty much scratch off this Seattle area because most of the movement was confined here to the south central portion of the Cascadia. And now that's completely came to a halt with some movement up around Seattle. And with the halting, we have seen a little bit of earthquake activity upstream, which means that this area is pretty much trimmered out for the most part, as far as it being able to subduct further. The trimmer basically means that the plate, Juan de Fuca plate, is sliding further down underneath the North American plate. And that's how you get the trimmer. Not earthquake activity, but trimmer, slow trimmer. And you can't feel these. These are down there about 35, 45 kilometers. Even if they were at the surface, I don't think that we'd be able to feel them. These are just more or less like a vibrational tone between two different plates here. Earthquake pressure is building upstream here, up along the subduction zone itself, the Cascadia. Let's see what else we have here. Where's the EMSC data? Let me check here. EMSC. See what we got here. There's a 4.2 along the Kermadec Trench. It's really weird. I didn't see that on the. I didn't see it on the Earthquake 3D globe. It's possible it could be older than 24 hours. Well, maybe, maybe not. It's kind of a little on the weird side. Either way, low activity, 4.2 North Island area along the southern end of the Kermadec Trench. Go ahead and zoom in and see what we got here for activity around New Zealand. And there's definitely some activity kicking up here. I'm really surprised USGS is not, or the EMSC model is not reporting that. What I might do, the Earthquake 3D program right now consists of the USGS data and also the EMSC data. That's why we see a lot of earthquake activity across this area of the world, Mediterranean, Middle East areas. But a lot of times they do report the New Zealand area, and they're not. So what I may do to cover this area is add the GeoNet servers. It looks like they're covering portions of Australia over here. I got a 3.2 and a 2.6 in opposite locations here, but missing out on the New Zealand area. So I'll add the GeoNet servers here a little bit later. I can combine quite a few different data or agencies' data on this globe here. That way we cover all areas, or at least some, some pretty important areas. All right, let's see what else we got. So, a little swarming out here along the Middle America Trench. That's pretty common. A cluster of swarms into the center portion there of the Pru-Chile Trench. Now, let's go back to the USGS map here. See what we got. They're not really showing all that smaller activity. Just the 4s and above. Looks like nothing new. We did have a 4.0 in the Chile area, 44 kilometers deep there last night. Other than that, some older earthquake activity across the South America region. But again, quite a few 3s in this mix of swarming. Alrighty, what else do we have here, folks? Anything going on with the space weather? Things kind of tapering off here, as expected. Back into the green. I love green. I'm a big fan of greenery. But I'm not a big fan of seeing green on the space weather site here, because that means that conditions are pretty calm, stabilized. But I'm sure we'll get active very soon. Watching a couple different sunspots over here. We're on the northeastern segment, northeastern limb of the sun here. They don't look super active, but it's kind of hard to tell the magnetic structure just by looking at that map. And even this one here doesn't give us a complete glimpse. Maybe this one's a little bit more noticeable. Looks like that does have a potential for maybe producing an upper C flare, maybe a low-grade M flare. A lot of closeness there of the magnetic fields. They look like they're growing, so we'll watch that for the coming days ahead as that rotates into view. Looks like 45% chance of a C flare, 5% for an M flare, and 1% or less for the other categories here. And that one is unnamed, the sunspot I just showed you. So we'll watch that as that comes into view. The man on the sun, or the face on the sun, kind of looks like it's getting sadder. To me, it looks like, oh man, doesn't look too happy. I remember a couple Halloweens back here, was it last year or the year before, we had like this wicked looking face on the sun, and it was right around the Halloween time, and it played out perfect just for Halloween timing. This go around, we got a sad face. What that means, I don't know. Either way, I'm still going out trick-or-treating. I'm not even joking. One of my favorite holidays. The kids like to go out, so I'm going to go out there with them. I'll dress up like I do every day. Not every day, but every Halloween. So coronal hole activity, we got these two that are going to be facing us here really soon. And we'll see how the 3-day comes out. There's a couple of the other sunspots we'll watch pretty closely. And we'll hope for some further activity as things get more active. Here's a little pretty cool drawing, I guess, of the coronal hole activity. When was this put out? October 24th. Forecaster. Huh, kind of cool. I've never really looked at that. The analysis of what's going on there. All right, let's see. Pretty calm around the auroras with the aurora forecast. Other than that, folks, I think that's about it. I'm going to jump off here. It's Monday. Got a few things I got to do. But we will be here on the side watching the activity. Don't forget we still have the, we do have the Volcano live stream up and running, monitoring Yellowstone National Park, Kilauea Volcano on the Big Island, also Mauna Loa at the caldera there on the Big Island. So looks pretty cold up there at Yellowstone National Park right now. But that is good. Winter is coming. I'm ready for it. Bring it on. All right, guys. Have a good night or a good afternoon. We'll chat you guys a little bit later on this evening. Unless something major happens, stay safe. Have a good one.